I am Doug Friedman.
And I am Meredith Levy.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown,
The podcast. I think we have that down now, maybe. We're like, is it going to change? Are we going to change it?
Yeah. Do you say mental breakdown and I say podcast? Like, I don't know. Y'all know what this is. This is Meredith and Doug, two people that have known each other since we were 12.
That's right.
And we're both licensed psychotherapists that sort of know what we're doing.
Little.
What are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, you had a deep moment of thought for that.
Yeah, we're coming up on the year anniversary of COVID. So, I mean, of the March 13th lockdown. That's what I consider the very start.
Yeah, we're getting there. We just hit the 1 year anniversary of the podcast coming out.
We sure did.
We came out 1 year ago on the 20th. So 1 year ago last Saturday.
Happy anniversary, Dougie.
Aw, thanks, Mayor. Right back at you. And how did we celebrate? We stuck mics in front of our faces and recorded another one for you guys.
That's right. Exactly. What's going on with you?
I'm gearing up to come back to LA.
Yay.
I know, I'm mixed. I'm really mixed. Like, LA's home and I want to be back, but I don't want to leave the mountains. Yeah, it's bittersweet. A little bittersweet here.
A little unsettled, a little not grounded, maybe feeling?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I don't feel okay, but I am okay. You know that old nugget.
It's okay to not be okay, Doug.
Actually, I'm staying at a friend's house who's out of the country for a few months. So my stuff is going to stay in storage for a few months. It's going to be weird to be in LA and not have all my stuff. Like, that's weird. And get this, my friend's house, she told me she doesn't have a TV. And in theory, I love that. And my early adult life, I didn't have a TV and then realized, oh, wait, I'm watching a bunch of stuff on my computer. Why don't I just get a TV? Why not have a TV? That's fine. And now I'm thinking, I don't know how I'd make it, at least during the pandemic, without a TV. I mean, it doesn't have to be on all the time, but
yeah,
no TV.
That's one of my judgments / not judgments. But whenever people are like, oh, I don't own a TV, I'm like, oh, well, aren't you super cultured and great because you don't own a TV? All you do is read and go outside. But like, I get it. I totally get it. To each their own, but I need that shit.
Well, I remember people in our high school would have that bumper sticker on their car that said, kill your television.
Oh, yeah.
Like, wow. Why not just turn it off? Why you gotta kill it?
Don't you have a big monitor at your office? You could just take that over there.
I could. I'll probably just wind up getting a TV for the next 4 or 5 months. Although I will say I'm grateful for my TV right now here. I have been binging the hell out of, get this, The Vow on HBO. Have you seen this? Do you know about this?
Wait, refresh my recollection.
The Vow is the documentary that's detailing the NXIVM cult.
Right. That's mind-blowing.
Oh my gosh, my mind has definitely gotten blown by this. The guy who's doing it, I think, was the filmmaker who did the documentary What the Bleep. Oh. And he was going to be documenting something about the NXIVM leader, Keith Raniere. So he was in the cult for 12 years, not knowing it was a cult, and had cameras there all the time, recorded all of his conversations to do the documentary on, the cult leader.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, which is awesome. And the people that left and that are kind of spearheading this documentary or the campaign to end it, they were a part of it for a very long time. So you get all of this insider information and it's actual real footage and the actual people, which is great. I mean, I had to stop watching like crime shows that would have the dramatization of something like, that's so bad. I want to just see the real thing.
So funny. I'm the opposite. I want to see not the real thing. I just don't watch documentaries very often at all because then I know it's real and tragic and albeit fascinating with a lot of things. But otherwise, I mean, there aren't a ton of documentaries on puppies and rainbows. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, I get it. They're all great and fascinating. And I just tend to shove my head in the sand or whatever when it comes to anything outside my work, because sometimes it's so intense. So,
right.
I mean, yes, but whenever someone's like, well, let's watch this, and I watch it, I'm always glad I did. But to take that initial plunge of like, do I want to watch like New Girl for the 10th time, or do I want to watch an intense documentary on like something?
I got obsessed. And I mean, ever since I was a kid, I was into, sounds weird to say, I was into the Manson family, the Kennedy assassination, and Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid.
Oh, totally.
Right. And David Koresh and Waco, like anything that was like, you know, this one charismatic, potentially deranged leader. And when something starts off like with a great idea, but then it just goes off the rails, like this Nexium thing might have been based on something that's self-help, and that's good.
Yeah.
It's just so fascinating to me and so highly disturbing to me that people would take the most vulnerable and take advantage of them this way.
Totally. And I think it's for us, especially for anybody, but it's being fascinated already with the human mind. And that's why for the most part, the only podcasts I listen to, or no, most of the podcasts I listen to are just crime ones, true crime ones. Right. And then I listen to like a cold case one, and I'm like, but I want to know what happened. And I'm like, well, I'm fucking listening to a cold case. Like, why am I trying to figure out what happened?
Right. There's no happy ending. It doesn't wrap up in a bow. That's why. Do you remember when the show first came out, America's Most Wanted?
Oh, yeah.
Loved that. And it was, I mean, those dramatizations I couldn't stand, but at least you got some visual for what was going on. But it seemed like they were like, okay, now we need all of you to help us find this person. Like that was cool. That like, cool. I get to be a U.S. Marshal. Like I get to be a bounty hunter. Awesome. Let me go find this guy. Right? Or girl or whoever it was. Yeah, I think there's even a podcast that is devoted to cold cases. That's a couple of detectives that do it, and they walk you through it.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. I do not listen to true crime stuff. It's not my thing. Like a cult leader, mass murderers, like that stuff. Sure, bring it on. I'll read everything about that and watch that stuff. The fascination for me is more like, again, you said the psychology of it. And I remember reading, I think it might have been one of the books on either the Kennedy assassination or the Manson family. For some reason, they're both in my mind the same way when I was a teenager reading about them. And there was a quote that said, people are much more inclined to believe one great lie than many small ones. And that quote was attributed to Hitler. And I saw that as a kid and was just like, holy crap.
Right.
Any charismatic leader, like I said, that can do that and bend people, like it was so disturbing to me and so fascinating to me. That's the stuff that I gravitated towards. To me, what makes the Vow stuff so fascinating and heartbreaking is their leader was somebody that was touted as being one of the highest level IQ people in the world, which is crap.
Right.
He might have been a smart guy, but he was also, I just flashed on in the 90s. I got roped into some of our friends were doing a pyramid scheme. Back then it was called Friends Helping Friends. And it was this thing where, if you remember that, I don't know if you remember it, but you buy in a certain dollar amount. I think there was like $100 pyramid, and then there was $1,000 one. You buy in and then you're under somebody. But if you bring in 8 more people and everybody brings in 8 people, then you get this incredible cash payout in just a couple of weeks. And it's amazing. But it was a pyramid scheme and it's illegal, and it got busted like way back in like 96 or something.
No way.
All of us that were involved, like all of our friends, were just like, oh, you mean I don't get any money?
Oh
we
my
just
God.
didn't realize it was a pyramid scheme designed to just take your money and give you hope. And some people early on got paid out, but none of us did. And that's a lot of these things function similarly. It's multi-level marketing. And that's Keith Raniere, the head of Nexium, was a really smart guy in terms of figuring that stuff out.
Right.
Brought people in that way. To me, so interesting and bothersome at the same time, which is maybe why you like true crime so much. It's so interesting and bothersome. Yeah.
You guys, let us know if you have any thoughts on all of this. And speaking of cults, just kidding.
Yeah, no cult here, but we're going to get back with Drew, but we got to give you a little lead in, because this is a little different times. If y'all can remember back a year ago, the pandemic was just starting. There was no lockdown yet. We didn't really know what was going on yet. What I knew was my client went to Seattle and got sick. This was wild. We didn't talk for a couple of weeks. I was worried. Oh my gosh, did he get the coronavirus? Is he okay? What's going on? Great that we had the session and we were able to connect after the pandemic was just starting. But what's really messed up is because we were doing it remote, what we were recording onto crashed in the middle of it. So we get like 6 minutes of the session. And that happened for a couple weeks. So for 2 weeks in a row. So you guys are going to get a twofer. You're going to get 2 sessions here.
Yeah.
The bad news is they're each only 6 minutes long. So a lot happens in those 6 minutes, though. We're going to roll out the first 6 minutes for you guys, and then we'll come back and break it down and fill you in on some of the other stuff.
Then we'll hear the next session after that, right?
Yeah. So
okay.
Don't go anywhere. Don't hit the fast forward button because you might miss it entirely. It's that fast.
Yeah, you might.
All right, guys. We'll be right back. How you been?
It's been okay. I feel like my sleep schedule is all fucked up. I think I'm really quarantining to the fullest extent at this point, to where it's just, I don't know, I've been sleeping a lot. Last week or two, my buddy down the street has a gym at his factory. And so I've been sneaking in the back and he's been letting me hit the weights, which has been amazing. Like that's been like my day to day, just getting out of the house, doing something type of thing.
Oh yeah. This must be torture. I mean, you love staying active and staying busy. And okay, rewind a little bit because I haven't seen you in a little bit. And last I heard, you went up north and you came back with the flu.
Oh yeah.
And you were knocked out for like 2 or 3 weeks. And it was right when this stuff was just starting to happen.
Yeah.
And, my worry was like, you might have gotten the coronavirus.
Well, and the funny thing is, I thought I did. I was like, well, I just came from Seattle. I've been traveling. It makes sense. I went to the hospital and get checked out because like I'm sick. And so I went to the urgent care down the street and they just checked me out front desk. Like, what's wrong? Oh, you don't feel good? Okay, fill out these papers. Hour later, walk me in the back and I'm like, so what's up? And I'm like, oh, I don't feel very good. I got a pretty bad cough. Like, I just want to be sure I don't have corona. And right when I said that, she like jumped back and she was like, why are you here? And I was like, I thought this was what I was supposed to do. And she was like, no. You're supposed to go to the emergency room. And she like named one of them, but there's only one testing center at the time in LA. I was like, crazy. I'm going there because then I will get it.
Yeah, especially if I'm depleted right now, fighting off whatever the hell you had.
That was rough.
What I was thinking about when it was happening, because I wasn't talking to you then, my worry was that you might feel, I don't know if you felt or were just on your own and alone.
Definitely. I don't know. It was kind of weird. And so I kind of had that conversation with a friend where I was like, man, I'm just kind of struggling. Like, I feel super lonely right now. And like, I just don't really want to talk to anybody. I just want to kind of be for a couple of days. And he continued to kind of check in and just kind of support that. And then, I woke up one day and I was like, oh, I feel much better now. I called him and we're all good. And the last couple of days, like I said, I've been kind of getting up and going out of the house and getting back to it. So I feel a lot better right now than I did like 2 weeks ago. Like 2 weeks ago, it was tough, especially just being isolated and by myself.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part.
Even though you're quite capable of taking care of yourself, I could see you also shutting everybody out.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that like, yeah, leave me alone. But you probably loved that he was hitting you up a couple times a day.
Yeah, and I told him that. I was like, man, I'm more than and like that's what I needed in that. I needed that to get me out of it almost. When I went to the doctor, they gave me a bottle of cough syrup. And so like I just downed it that night and I got pretty fucked up. And I slept the next 2 days. I think that kind of like attributed to the catalyst of that. But I think I've been feeling shitty kind of since I got back from Seattle. That was just a fucked up, shitty trip. I'm trying to think like my overall gist of what happened that weekend. I kind of went into it. I feel like I needed to do it by myself and go through it by myself, which kind of when I got to his actual funeral, I realized that wasn't what I needed. Old girlfriend was there. So that was kind of weird. I don't know. The funeral was different. I had never been to a funeral like that. It was more at a country club and people were interesting and more of a celebration than anything, which was just different for me. I didn't know if I really got to grieve the way I necessarily wanted to.
Right.
And I think now, like even yesterday, I had a good cry about it. I was listening to an old school country song that we used to listen to. And it kind of hit me like for the first real time where I was like, damn, like this is real now. I was with my buddy the other day talking tattoos, and we were making fun of a friend because he had just the shittiest angel tattoo that he had gotten for another one of our buddies that passed away. And so we were bullshitting just how shitty his tattoo was. And I'm like, I don't know if it's fucked up or not, but in my head, I was like, well, at least that's over. At least he doesn't have to live the rest of his life with a shitty ass tattoo. So it's just stuff like that where it kind of hit me like, oh, like he doesn't have a shitty tattoo anymore.
Yeah. You've been through that a few times. Doesn't necessarily make it any easier. In fact, it might even make it cumulative.
More baggage.
Because you're thinking of all those cherry blossoms that have fallen.
Definitely.
And come back and you're sick and you're alone with yourself.
I didn't go to work. I didn't do anything. And I think that was good. I think I needed to get through those couple of weeks. And I thank God I was sick. Thank God I had that excuse to not have to be like, well, I'm really mentally not able to be there right now. I don't want to come in. It was a crazy weekend. And then I got a job offer. So that was kind of cool. I signed papers and then the pandemic hit. So I was like, ah, shit. I'm working on literally providing face masks to the world right now. And it's insane. Like, it is insane. We did 300 million to Russia and we're doing another like 200-300 million in the States.
Wow.
It's just wild. So it feels good to kind of be a part of like helping people on like a really big scale. Made me feel wanted that, oh, now I got something I need to go do type of thing.
Okay, so I don't know if you remember this. I'm sure you do. So this is amazing. This is the first session during COVID, right? And I remember this so well. At the time, you and I were recording in person.
Right.
And I remember you saying, Drew was really sick. And I kept saying, okay, well, this is how I was talking. You are going to make him get COVID tested before he comes in your office, right? And you're like, I don't know. And I was like, well, listen, dude, if you don't, I'm not coming to your office to record. Like, sorry to be a bitch, but like, that's, right. I'm not doing it.
Right.
And you were like, well, I don't know. Let's just see what happens. And because at that time it was like, we didn't know a thing about it.
No, we were like, yeah, two weeks. We can take anything for 2 weeks. No problem.
Totally. I think I even said that. Well, at least for 2 weeks or something.
Right.
So you guys started the session just talking about, it was literally like talking about how he was sick and he doesn't think he has it, or he didn't think he had it, or he didn't have it or whatever. Right. Just like the flu, and he was down for a few weeks, and then segues right into that had been maybe a few weeks ago that he had gone home for the weekend for the funeral. So it was like, even though in my mind, it was so much later because now COVID had started, which is like a huge different era, basically. Right. He was like, totally. Okay, so yeah, a few weeks ago when I went home and I was like, wait, oh, we're right back there? Holy shit. Right. I was like, that is amazing. Okay.
Yeah. And what we were saying and what you guys heard was, for him, the timing seemed to fit in terms of he felt like crap. He got sick. He came home. Right. So he wasn't really working. He was just staying home, feeling like crap. And that kind of fit with the grief that he was going through. Yep. Because he had just been home for that funeral, one of his close friends. I mean, you guys all heard that last week. And for him, this was several weeks ago, but several weeks of kind of going through the grief. And we didn't talk in this time because he was sick. He was up in Seattle. He was back down. And it was a little wild to just think of timeline for one thing, but also that idea of, yeah, he's feeling like crap. We've got a pandemic. It wasn't COVID, but he wasn't entirely sure at that time. Yeah. And he was just overall just generally feeling like shit.
Yeah. And I love how, by the way, the story about him going to urgent care and her being like, get the fuck out. I mean,
like, not literally. Wait, I thought this is what I'm supposed to do.
I know, that was classic.
Right. Poor guy. Not to mention, he's feeling like crap that whole time.
I know. Like mind, body, soul.
Right. And what he mentioned, I think it just started cutting off when we were getting to this, but he was talking about, did get a job offer to help out and do masks pretty much for the world. I mean, he was churning them out like crazy because he's in fashion. He knows a lot of the supply houses, warehouses, manufacturers, right? So he can move in that world and help them out and help them process this, get it all done. So he was helping out and working for people that were supplying not hundreds or thousands, but hundreds of millions.
That's amazing.
It was pretty amazing. And he was feeling like it was giving him a nice sense of purpose to be able to do something like that, especially right now.
Right.
And what he was saying to me after it cut off, what he's been able to do, and it was really cool, is having gotten sick, having processed some grief, having to just be alone and be solo. The two things that stuck out for me and him is he said, I'm so grateful to have a puppy because I'm alone, but I don't feel lonely.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. Right. And I loved hearing him say that. The other was recognizing, I actually do feel more independent now. It used to be, I had to do something for other people, or I had to have people join me. And I'm not feeling that codependence where I rely on them and I need that to be complete. It was like, no, I'm okay. And one of his best friends was checking in with him. And he realized, when he used to say, there's no good people in LA, or I'm only as valuable to them as whatever I can offer them. We kind of looked at, dude, you're sick. What are you offering when you're sick? And he goes, yeah, nothing.
Right.
I guess he really did just want to come around. That felt really nice. So he was able to recognize it that way. Yeah. Sort of because he was sick and just being at home, which I think was great.
Totally. And then it made me laugh because then he's like, and then eventually I got to go to his gym, sneak in the back or whatever. There's a gym in his
right.
whatever.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I get you.
Yeah. Going to the gym, working out, but doing those things that we talked about this before when he had the breakup. I'm remembering what I like to do. I like to go to museums. I like to work out. Right. I like to go to church.
All the things that got taken away from him during the pandemic.
Right. I know it's the timing just sucks, right? But it's something we even teased that now that he's in a place of feeling more independent, feeling the strength in himself, and he doesn't care about dating anybody. He's not interested in that right now. That's probably when he's going to meet somebody, because he's a more full version of himself. Right. And he's not looking for anyone else to complete him. And he could just present as him wherever he is and wherever he goes.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what we found in the beginning and through the whole thing about the pandemic is that a lot of people with social anxiety or even depression or anxiety or whatever just felt more validated. And instead of pressured to go out, then they would actually take it upon themselves to do it.
Right.
A little bit, right? Because now all of a sudden going on a walk was everyone's baseline, right? So, right. Whereas that might have been considered that's so lame. You just want to go on a walk. Now it's that's the most you could do.
Right.
It was great. Everyone has a level playing field. And I think that made people feel better about their own insecurities. And then he could make the choice to just figure out what he wanted to do as opposed to feeling obligated.
Right. It's nice and not nice for him that he's feeling that now.
Right.
And, right. And we also, are about to, we weren't on lockdown quite yet, but we were getting the warnings, we were
right.
Please limit what you're doing, only essential workers. And
right.
I mean, what he was doing was essential work. He was providing masks for people. So of course he can go out and do that. But he also said something that was, I think, very impactful in the session, which you guys didn't get to hear, but I remember being there. He was talking about the throwback to saying there's no good people in LA. And he said, when we were talking about this is when you'll probably meet somebody when you're not looking. he said, I realize it's okay not to have my person as long as I have my people.
Mm.
And that's when he was also saying I love having my dog. He's not my people, but he's my family, and right. Having that, and I don't feel so isolated. But if I have my people, I don't need my person to be my everything.
Totally. He mentioned the funeral a little bit in the beginning about how it was different than he thought. And I think he said his ex was there.
Yeah.
But he didn't share much about whether or not he ended up spending time with her, or I was just wondering about any of that.
There was so much catch up to do that,
right.
When we looked at that weekend and how that was and how his time up there was, what he said was, she was there and it wasn't an issue for him. It was okay.
Okay.
He really felt like himself and he had his boundaries. He was okay. He didn't slip into caregiver mode at all out there for anybody other than himself.
Good job, Drew.
He was really internalizing a lot of it. That's why it was nice to reconnect with him, because he was like, yeah, there was a lot of grief that was coming up. I didn't realize how much was coming up. And if I had to compartmentalize, I realized that was okay. Not to mention that word compartmentalize, he can now nail. But when we first used that word, he was like, oh, for the life of me, I can't say that word.
That's
and
amazing.
He said it a few times since. And every time he says it, he'll point at me and like smile, like, I nailed it. Like,
That's amazing. It's a difficult word, Drew.
So if nothing else, at least he's learned how to pronounce that.
Yes, for sure.
What's cool is you get to kind of hear what happens next right now, because we got another session that Super Cool and Super Bummer also gets cut off. So you only get 6 minutes of this one.
The magic number.
Looking a little spiky.
This is my fresh out of the bed look. Been perfecting it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think we all have. Can't all look this good.
Hey, dude, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Love it.
Smiling pretty good.
Yeah, things are good. I've been seeing this girl, and she's been staying up with me a little bit too. I met her boy. It feels right. Everything feels good, and like she's allowing me to still work and do my thing and not put anything on pause to kind of like jump into it the way I usually do. It's been a great last month, and I think quarantine's really helped me allow myself to do this.
What do you mean by that?
It gave me time. Right when first quarantine started, I really got into that zone of like not wanting to go out, not wanting to do anything, and it really sucked. That was the first time I'd been there in a while. And then all of a sudden I started working again and things started happening, and I met her and met her family and like her friends, and like they're my people. And I was like, okay, like, this is cool. I like this. I know it's really quick, but we're doing like really big milestones like fast, which scares the fuck out of me, but it feels good. It's like one of those things for like, there wouldn't be any courage if there was no fear type of situation. You know what I mean? You feel me? So it's
Amen, brother.
It's where I'm at, and I haven't been happy like this in, God, I don't know if ever, honestly.
Wow. So I got like 37 questions. I'll try to ask only 3 of them. The courage and fear. I love that you just brought that up. Where you were back then is so different from where you are now. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I'll ask about, because I heard it in what you said, she's allowing me to work.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
She's allowing me to be myself and loves me for that. Where I think the difference is, you know, even going back to old girlfriend, she didn't like that I smoked and drank and did what I wanted to do. And so I always felt like I had to walk on eggshells around her. And then fast forward to old girlfriend, I always felt like I was letting her down in one way or another. I always felt like I had to take care of her. Whereas with girlfriend, she can take care of herself, and I'm so confident in that. And I think the way I've seen it too is with her and her kid. I've seen just how she loves him and takes care of him, and like she is fully okay by herself. She's at her own piece doing her thing. I'm my piece doing my thing, and we're rolling together. But we're figuring it out. And it's not like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's like, well, what are we going to do? We're doing it as a team now, which is like the most gangster thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. And love that you brought in missing piece to it. I would argue that it's not that she's allowing you to still work. It's more like you're allowing you to be you. Mm-hmm. And she sees that, she accepts that. And this is what it looks like when you're yourself. And she's okay on her own. Yeah. Cool. So she doesn't need you, which is new for you. Right. I'm only valuable if I'm needed, and let me show how much I'm needed and go above and beyond. And it's just, no, I see you for who you are and how you are, and that's cool.
Yeah, and like even on like a finance topic, we've shared like a lot already. This is the first person in my life I've actually felt comfortable being like, this is where I'm at, and this is what I got, and it's not much, but here you go. She was like, no, like we're supposed to do this together. Like it's not a you taking care of me thing. It's like we're a team now and we're supposed to do this together. And she brought that up and I was like, sick. Okay, that makes me feel a lot better. Because that's always been a struggle, you know, especially with old girlfriend of trying to buy her things and almost buy her love. And I'm not having to deal with that. And it's allowing me to be a lot more free and love her a lot more genuinely.
Yeah, it's interesting how money becomes such a big issue in relationships. Shit, I remember a time where you had $7 till your next paycheck because you had lent money to your roommate, you lent money to
old girlfriend,
and he was taking care of everybody else. And now you've got somebody who's like, no, we're a team. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder where you are in terms of being able to be your own piece and do something on your own, balanced with having support or having a team or relying on team.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
I think I'm actually starting to understand what it means to have a team and understanding what that means in my life. I think the best example was friend. He's a printer. I'm literally there to pick him up and leave. It's like a 5-minute in and out. We're sitting there. He's like, yo, let's go smoke a joint. And I'm like, for sure. And so that brings me to this. I was supposed to be a 5-minute trip, turned into like a 3-hour trip. And so I instantly, I think, preconditioned, I get on the phone. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know I was going to be this late. Like,
right.
Can I get you anything? Can you food? Like, what do you need? Like,
how
I'm
do
sorry.
I make it better? Right.
And she was like, oh no, we're chilling playing Xbox. And I was like, what? And she was like, oh yeah, you're good. Like, take your time. And I was like, okay. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, what a switch, man. What a switch. And were you thinking about her at different points during the hang, or was it like?
And I texted her. I was like thinking about you, like seen a bit. Once I saw I'd been there for like an hour and a half, I was like, oh shit. And I knew it wasn't going to end, so I was like, okay, at least send you this quick one, so I'm thinking about you. And it was cool. And then I called her, and she's like, oh no, take your time. And I was like, okay, thank you.
That's you being you. It's okay for you to be you.
I think now she's allowing me to like fully be who I am, and she loves me for that. And I've never had that. Yeah,
I'll say this off the bat. Whether or not you guys are happily ever after is irrelevant to this point, which is this is a very healing relationship for you. Here's some positive reinforcement for something being okay. Mm-hmm. And then your guard drops a little bit. You just got the experience of that positive reinforcement for just being you.
Yeah. And being confident in it.
The first thing I heard you guys say in the session, which just made me laugh, and again was one of those things when I was like, yeah, this is going to be for the next year, was when you were like, you got that fresh out of bed look. And he was like, I know, my hair and whatever. And I was just thinking, yeah, dude, for the next year, seeing clients or knowing that people are having meetings with no pants on, or just like, I mean, I have a good friend who's a therapist that wears like button up shirts and like a sweater over it with shorts. I've actually started thinking lately, maybe I should shower in the morning before sessions. And then he just jumps out with fucking dating a new girl.
Right?
What? Uh-huh. And then I was like, okay, hold on. And she has a son? Okay. A lot packed into this one. So I'm just going to jump right in. Just going to go through like bam, bam, bam. So right away, he's like, yeah, it's super cool. She allows me to work. And then, of course, I wrote that down. And then you picked that up later. And I was like, thank God. I was like, she allows you to work? I mean, and what he said was actually that it just was so different, because before, one ex wanted him to change something, or another ex, he felt like he was letting them down, and that she's like, chill. She's just like, yeah, do your thing.
Yeah, what's cool is you guys have all seen the progression of this, where we were talking about him feeling more strength in himself as an individual, being independent, doing his own thing. Yeah, him saying, she's allowing me to work, she's allowing me to be myself.
Yeah.
He's allowing himself to be himself, which is something he's been working towards. And even his verbiage not coming out the way that sounds empowering, but we hear it that way and we catch it. What he's doing is being more of himself. He's allowing himself to be himself. And it's
totally
really cool to watch that and to see somebody else recognize that and accept him for that. And he's like, yeah, cool. She's different. All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, I think it was cool. Like, basically, you pointed out that she doesn't need him. Oh, she wants him, but she doesn't need him.
Right.
And even with like the finances piece, he's okay acknowledging that he's not like a baller, and he's not trying to fake it and like buy her all this shit. And she's just like, no, like, we're good.
Yeah. And he was just going to somebody's place that he works with to drop something off. I think it was his printer, he said.
Right.
And he was just supposed to be in and out in 5 minutes. And they wound up smoking a joint. And what we had to cut out is there was somebody else that was kind of there. I mean, this guy knew it wasn't like just some dude, but who this guy was, like Drew knew this guy's story, but didn't know that this was the guy. And they like bonded and connected. And it was really thrilling for Drew to kind of talk with this guy. I was like, oh my God, you're this guy. That's awesome. And he got wrapped up in like having this connection. And he said like my 5-minute stop turned into a 3-hour like hang. And then I was like, oh crap, I got to like check in. He was checking in with text. That's kind of what we said. Like, did you check in at all? Like, yeah. But then when he called, he was anticipating I'm going to be in trouble like I was in my last relationships.
Totally.
And that's when it was the total switch of like, oh, that's cool. Whatever. You're good. No problem. I'll see you a little bit. Yeah.
It was funny. He's like, she's just playing PlayStation or whatever the fuck.
Right.
And to be honest though, yes, I get it. I'm not sure how cool I'd be if someone like 3 hours later,
sure,
I would still be like, oh, what? Right. You're high? Like, oh, babe, I'm leaving in 20 minutes. Oh, babe, sure, I'm cool. But like, I wouldn't just be like, no big deal. I don't think. I can't imagine. I think I'd be at the very least annoyed or. Well, and what I asked is, were you texting during? He was like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, thinking about you. You had this, that. Yeah. So he was checking in. It wasn't like he was completely AWOL for 3 hours. It wasn't quite that bad, but I think, and I'm with you. If somebody's like, yeah, I just got to stop in 5 minutes and then I'll be back. No problem. Like, great. I'll make dinner. Like dinner's already been eaten and cold 3 hours later. Like what the hell? Yeah. Also, what I kind of spun at him at the end of this little bit, it was not at the end of the bit, it was still the beginning of our session, was, wow, you're getting some good experience and some positive reinforcement of being yourself. Like he was so scared of her reaction to him saying, okay, I'm on my way now. I'm so sorry. Like it was fine. He was like, oh wait, it's okay. I don't have to flinch. Yeah. I don't have to cower. That was pretty cool. Yeah, 100%. I think it's great. And he realized too, as we talked and the session went on, that he's experiencing not having to tell her the whole story of something. He was like, oh, right. I don't have to do the whole thing. Right. He said something earlier in the session that you guys heard about she can take care of herself. I don't have to do it for her. She's her own piece. She's not a missing piece. I'm not a missing piece. It's cool. He's like, we just roll together or something. I was like, missing piece. Right. And he connected it to his brother in that he was like, I'm realizing that what I want from my brother is just a sense of family. I don't have to have the big conversation about our past. I don't need to do all that. And there's nothing I really need to hear from him right now. I just want to be. And that was so cool to hear him link that from the experience with this new girl that he's going out with to his brother that he's been estranged from for 10 years and just starting to repair. Yeah. And even with this girl, he was saying, what's crazy is the first time we met, I wasn't thinking I have to get my whole story out. She needs to know everything about me. It was like, no, this is cool. He must have said that when we weren't. Yeah. That was in the cut up. That was later? Oh, okay. Yeah, that was later. Oh, that's something cool. He and I worked on because it was, well, I'll give you two things that kind of happened when we cut off because they might be relevant. We'll see. One of them is just that realizing like I didn't need to tell her my whole story off the bat. And it was such a switch. And for him, realizing it's not about being fully understood by somebody because he's told his whole story. Right. It's being fully seen and appreciated and accepted for being himself. And that was a big one. Yeah. I love that. What's also cool is he's a couple friends of his, the one good friend that checked in on him in the last session when he was sick. We talked about him, and that friend is mad at another friend and worried about him because that other friend went back home somewhere and there was a shooting out there and it was really messed up. And they were like, what's he doing out there? He should be back up here in LA with us. What's he doing down there? And it didn't feel right. And Drew's experience of that was talking to his friend and feeling like he even said, I felt like I didn't have to put the cape on everywhere for everyone. Nice. And I didn't have to have control. I could just see that, oh, my friend's mad and worried about our other friend. I don't have to keep the peace. I can live with them. And he even brought back the 10% disappointment. Like,
I can live with him being 10% mad or 10% worried. That's okay. I don't have to take it on and fix it.
Look at you, Drew.
Right? It was really cool.
Amazing.
That's what we had. That's what you heard.
Next week, you guys get the full thing.
I know. Back to it. Brace yourselves. The full session, closer to 60 minutes next time. Thanks for sticking around with this one. And we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.